Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto fall in love with Nami, part 3, subscribe if you enjoy the video, let's start the story. It's Kraken. Usopp shouted as he backed away and fell on his backside while Chopper was as scared as Usopp, while Naruto, Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji looked at each other for a few seconds before Luffy said, "I'm gonna tame it." He laughed, which caused the other three to sweat drop, while Naruto just popped some of his joints to get ready for some fun. "I was expecting you to say that you wanted to eat it, but tame it. That is on a whole other level of idiocy," Luffy Naruto said while Zoro and Sanji nodded with him while they were talking. One of the Kraken's tentacles came down and was about to hit the sun until Frankie shouted chicken voyage and the Sunny evaded the incoming attack. Then Naruto turned his attention towards Caribou, who was trying his best to get out of Naruto's prison, but to no avail, as every time he put his hands through the bars, his hand caught fire. Caribou then looked at Luffy and shouted, "Wait. If you want to go outside so badly, then I have an idea," he shouted. After a few minutes of getting Naruto, Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro their own personal bubble, they began to run, which was hard due to the coating, making them feel like a sumo wrestler or something like that. They then jumped off the ship and outside into the ocean. Naruto felt a little better being able to move about underwater, so he didn't feel as sick as he usually does. More of the Kraken's tentacles came towards the ship, but then Zoro appeared in front of it before it could attack three-sword style. Crossing of six paths, he shouted as he spins and creates an S shape with his swords before slashing at one of the Kraken's tentacles, causing it to split into 6 pieces, while the Kraken cries out in agony. But before Zoro could attack again, Luffy kicked him in the side. "Hey. Don't kill him, I want to keep him alive so I can tame him," Luffy shouted at Zoro as he rubs his side a bit, but before Luffy could begin his taming, 2 more tentacles came towards them. This caused Sanji and Naruto to appear. Naruto then pulls out his palm and pump his devil fruit power into it and then begins to spin it, creating what looked to be a shield with a fox head made of fire appear in the middle. Yo no fox shield. One of the tentacles collide with the shield, which causes the whole tentacle to be erupted into flames, while uses his diable jam and kicks the other tentacle, which in turn causes the tentacle to end up cooked. This causes Luffy to cry because his pet was being cooked alive, while also foaming at the smell of the cooked tentacle. He then shakes his head, telling himself that he can't eat his pet. He then bites his thumb. Gear 3rd. He then pulls his arms back like a giant pistol, except he then says use a Shoku Koka after he coats his giant arms, and he finally shouts Gomu Gomu no elephant gun, and ended up socking the Kraken straight in the jaw, knocking it out in the process. What the others didn't expect to say, though, was a shark wearing a t-shirt swim out of one of the Kraken's holes and swam towards the Straw Hats, and then it began to what they thought was thanking them before began swimming towards Fishman Island, and before the 4 could head back to the ship, there was a huge current which caught them all off guard and swooped them in all directions, sending them off course. "What the hell is this?" Naruto shouted before he was blown out of sight by Naruto. The 3 shouted before them 2 were blown away by the current with Naruto. Naruto woke up to what sounded like giggling. He slowly opened his eyes and saw what looked like the sky, but he could make out what looked like fish swimming in the sky. "So did I make it to Fishman Island?" he asked himself, not noticing the figures that were around him until he heard a feminine voice. "Yes, you're on Fishman Island," he heard her say, which caught his attention as he sat up and looked to who it was that answered his question, only to see mermaids. "Very sexy mermaid." "Bad Naruto," he scolded himself while some blood went down his nose, but what scared him the most was that his mindscape was probably being flooded by Kurama's blood, which caused Naruto to chuckle. "Damn, Hero Fox is having an effect on me," he thought before he turned his attention towards the mermaid's cough. "Sorry, hey, I'm Naruto," he said with a smile which caused the mermaids to blush and made Naruto smirk. One of the mermaids decided to swipe up to Naruto with a smile and a small wink. "Hey handsome, I'm Ishili." The now named Ishili introduced herself. She had long curly hair that were split into pigtails with flowers tied around them. Her hair went to her mid-back section. She wore a stripy black and white bra that matched her tail, which was also stripy with black and white stripes. In Naruto's opinion, she was the sexiest one out of the mermaids he could see in front of him. Then again, they all were. Naruto smiled at the black-haired mermaid. "Nice to meet you, Ishili." "Haim," he teased, causing her to blush a much darker shade of red. But before he could continue his conversation with the mermaid, he looked around her and noticed another mermaid coming towards them with green hair. "Who is that?" Naruto asked, pointing over her shoulder, which caused her to look to where he was pointing and gasped, "Kami." She squealed in delight as she hugged her friend as their breasts pressed up against each other, which caused him to have another nosebleed, and he was sure that if he went into his mindscape head, which are drowned in blood or find a different colored Kurama, red Kurama. Then Naruto noticed Luffy, Usopp, Chopper, and a nearly dead Sanji. "Hey guys." Naruto waved at them, which caused Luffy to look over to Naruto. He smiled at him and walked towards him and began talking about what happened. "What? You mean to tell me that out of anywhere on Fishman Island you landed in the best place?" Sanji shouted before crying and I'm tears while Naruto just smirked as he wrapped his arms around Ishili's waist, causing her to blush a lot. Yup. Naruto replied as he rested his chin on her shoulder, much to her embarrassment. Well, we gotta find the rest of the crew, so we will see you soon, Himes, Naruto said before he heard them talking about someone by the name of Papagu. Who is he asked while looking at Kami. He is a famous designer, she said with a smile as she turned to look at Luffy, I will take you to Shirley, she said as she began swimming towards the Fishman city through one of the water tunnels. While they were walking, Naruto was talking to Luffy about what happened while he was out cold, as he talked about how the crew were attacked by the new Fishman pirates who were riding sea monsters, and how Sanji was crying about finally being able to meet beautiful mermaids, which caused Naruto to sweat drop. Oh look, this is one of Papagu-sama's store, she said, as the Straw Hats heard a familiar voice coming from in the store. Oh no, I know that voice anywhere, Usopp said with a sweat drop, as they walked inside and noticed that Nami was at the counter trying to get a 90% discount for the clothes, which caused them all to sweat drop except Sanji and Luffy, as Sanji was too busy jumping around shouting Nami Swan, and Luffy was just laughing. Come on, just give me a 90% discount, Nami pleaded with the store owner, as he was about to deny her request for the 100th time. A starfish with sunglasses and a Bob Marley hat walked in. What's the problem, he asked, as his glasses twinkled in the light, as he tried to act cool, as the store owner sighed in relief. Oh Papagu-sama, this lady is trying to scam us, he said while pointing at Nami, as he cried in I'm tears, as Papagu just smiled. It's fine, they are the ones to save Hichibi, so for the Straw Hats it's all free, Papagu said with a huge grin, as Nami now had stars in her eyes. Really? She said, not believing him, as he just nodded to her with a smile. Take whatever you want, he said. Papagu lost his smile as soon as his store was now empty of all clothes, as Luffy, Sanji, and Usopp were carrying large bags of clothes on their back. Naruto just chuckled at Nami getting every piece of clothing the store had to offer, which in her case was everything. The Straw Hats now stood outside of what looked like a cafe, while Sanji was farming out of his mouth at the thought of going inside the mermaid cafe, and Kurama wasn't faring any better, as he was literally flooding Naruto's mindscape with his drool and blood, which caused Naruto a large headache. After sorting his problem out, he walked inside, and to the Straw Hat surprise, Brook walked out with the biggest blush on his face. Not that I can blush. Yo-ho-ho-ho. Stop breaking the fourth wall, Brook. As they then noticed all of the fishmen and mermaids around them gasp as they looked up at the sky. Look in the sky, he has come down from the palace. The fish mad shouted as the Straw Hats looked up to notice a huge merman riding a whale. That is one big merman, Usopp said, as Luffy and Naruto tilted their heads. Who's the shaggy old man, they said in unison, as Papagu gripped hold of Luffy's cheek. Show some respect to the person in front of you, Papagu shouted as he pulled on his gums. Not that Luffy noticed. Why has King Neptune came to greet the humans, a random mermaid said to herself as she looked, as Neptune looked down at the Straw Hats with a neutral expression. Oh hey, there's that shark we saved on our way to Fishman Island, Nami said as she pointed at the shark wearing the t-shirt. Neptune cleared his throat as he looked at the Straw Hat pirates. King Neptune invited you to join me in Ryugu Palace, Neptune said to them, as Kami and Papa Gus, as well as all the people within hearing distance, jaws to drop, as if not believing what he was saying. Naruto, however, rested his hands behind his head and began walking away. No thanks, I want to explore Fishman Island more. But what he did not expect was for Nami to join him. I'll come with you, she smiled, all too innocent smile which caused Naruto to smirk. But in the background Sanji glared daggers in Naruto's back, but he let them go for now, as the rest of the crew headed for the palace. Somewhere near the Fishman district, a pirate ship can be seen heading away from Fishman Island. However, there was a fishman blocking the ship's path. As the pirates noticed the fishman, he began to panic. Hody Jones, one of the pirates shouted as the captain looked ahead. Oh no, he's found us. Another pirate shouted as the captain noticed something. Wait. He has handcuffs on, he shouted in disbelief as Hody had a psychotic look in his eyes with the biggest shark-like grin while he stared at the panicking humans in front of him. As the crew were staring fearfully at Hody, he suddenly disappeared from their line of sight, only for one of the pirates to shout, he has got through the mast. Then out of nowhere he burst through the deck of the ship with one of the pirate's lifeless body in between his teeth. Hody then continued to slaughter the pirate crew as blood sprayed all over the ship as the captain charged towards I've fought and killed fishmen before, and you're no different, he shouted as he thrust his sword in a downwards motion, intending to sever Hody's head, but it never came, as Hody smirked before he opened his wide jaw and bit of the captain's head off, as the remainders of the pirates watched in horror as their captain's headless body fell to the ground. After Hody dealt with the captain, he began to beat the rest of the crew until they were at death's door. Take them to the new world. Odie ordered as one of his crew came and looked at the crew and sighed, "Oh dear, I do hope they are not dead," as the rest of Odie's crew just shouted, "Roger boss," and began to pick up the near dead crew. "They had better be alive because I need them to send a message to the world above," Odie said with an evil glint in his eye. "Tell them all, strike fear into the hearts of the land-dwelling human scum," he shouted as the fishmen around him cheered at their leader. "For we will seize Fishman Island, center of the world, from that supposed god Neptune. We will show them who are the true strongest race," as he shouted as the new Fishman pirates blew up into full-blown shouting. Mermaid Cove. The mermaids were currently sitting around their cove as they chatted with each other and had games of Go Fish the Irony XD. "I lost again," one of the mermaids said as she cried, and I'm tears. As they were playing, they started to get curious about the barrel that was nailed up. One of the curious pulled out a hammer that seemed to appear out on nowhere as her curiosity got the best of her as she began to take the nails out and slowly lifted the lid up. They noticed eyes in the darkness of the barrel as muck shot out and trapped all of the mermaids. They screamed at the horrible feeling of being trapped by the horrible muck as a man rose from the muck chuckling evilly as the mermaids screamed for someone to help, but he put the muck over their mouths to stop them from screaming anymore. "Kahehehe, thank you little mermaids for setting me free. I wonder how much mermaids go for these days. If I'm right, they go for about 70 million, he said while licking his lips at the mermaids as they looked at him in horror, and to their relief they could see a blonde walking behind their kidnapper as his hair hid his eyes so that they could only see a pair of beaming red eyes behind Caribou. Not that he noticed until Caribou heard what sounded like knuckles cracking as he began to sweat slightly as he turned round to see Naruto with Nami behind him as Straw Hats. He panicked, but before he could run, the air was knocked out of his lungs as he was punched into the side of a wall. "You ladies okay?" Naruto asked in his normal kind tone, which caused the mermaids to blush. "Thank you, Naruto," Ashiri cried as she lunged into his chest while crying, saying how scared she was of being sold to someone like a noble, which made Naruto's blood boil at the mention of a world noble. Naruto just ran his hands through her hair as he whispered soothing words into her ear while Nami was talking with the other mermaid while secretly looking over at Naruto and blushing a bit. "Alright girls, I gotta go since I got to escort Orange-chan," he said, referring to Nami, who glared blushed at the nickname. "Hey," she yelled at him as the mermaids whined. All the mermaids cried to her to not wanting their savior to go. "Yet do you have to?" Ashiri said with a pout as Naruto nodded his head with a smile as she hesitantly let him go so that he could take Nami to the nearest casino, which he told her he had the devil's luck, which caused belly size to appear in Nami's eyes. Shiley's Cafe. The three princesses of Fishman Island are currently talking with the fortune teller as she had claimed she had seen a vision of Straw Hat Luffy destroying Fishman Island. Fukabashi, one of the three princesses, can be seen talking with her. "So Madam Shirley, are you certain that this future you claim to have seen is it true? Will Straw Hat Luffy destroy Fishman Island?" Fukabashi asked the large mermaid as one of her cafe workers came towards her. Madam Shirley drank some water, she said as she thanked her and drank down the water. "Yes, what I saw is beyond doubt. It is most certainly the truth," she said as she shook a bit at the information. "Madam Shirley, word of the accuracy of your fortune telling has reached even as fast as the royal palace. How unfortunate. I had intended to approach the Straw Hats with friendly intentions, benefactors of my sister's pet that they are, but considering the future, uncertain though it may be, it is clearly not prudent to allow them to roam free," he said before turning towards his two brothers. "We will have to take measures to prevent this." With Naruto and Nami Casino. Naruto and Nami can be seen in one of the public casinos as they were winning every round that was before the owner walked towards them sweating heavily. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave because you have currently driven the casino into bankruptcy," he said while crying, and I'm tears, which caused Naruto to chuckle a bit. Okay, I'm leaving. Come on Nami, you okay?" Naruto said as Nami's belly eyes were shining and she looked like she just had an orgasm, so Naruto took out a storage scroll and sealed 600 million in them and walked out of the casino with a small chuckle as he had to carry Nami outside. "Nami, there's a man stealing free clothes," he whispered in her ear, which caused her to snap out of her dazed state. "Free clothes?" she shouted looking around. "Sorry, Orange-chan had to get you out of your dazed state," he laughed as she pouted. "I was looking forward to getting free clothes too," she said as she then realized she was being carried bridal style, which caused her to blush a bit, which didn't go noticed by Naruto. "Nami, want me to put you down?" he whispered huskily in her ear, which caused her to blush even more. "No, I like this," she said, snuggling more into his chest, which caused Naruto to smile as he continued to carry her. "Hey Naruto," she asked while still in a bridal carry. He hummed to show he was listening. "How did you and Kurama meet?" she asked, which caused him to stiffen a bit, which she noticed. Sorry I asked, she said. But Naruto just smiled. He has been with me since I was born. You see, my father was the leader of the village that I came from. They are known as Hokage, and one day a man in a mask named Obito attacked our village and stole me when I was a baby. He blackmailed the Hokage into releasing the tailed beast, which he did, and this tailed beast was the nine-tailed fox, otherwise known as Kurama, he said, which caused her to gasp a bit. Then he continued, when Kurama was released, he was caught under a genjutsu by Obito, which caused Kurama to go on a rampage and destroyed 3/4 of the village and left many families wanting revenge on the Nine Tails. Since my father knew he could not defeat Kurama, he had to seal him again, and at the time I was the only option, so he ended up sealing it in me, he said. Well, she rested her head in the crook of his neck. After sealing Kurama in me, he was taken away by the Shinigami death god, so my parents ended up dying before me, as Kurama had killed them, he said with a sad smile. Well, inside the mindscape, Kurama felt that Naruto still hated him for that, decided not to, but after a couple of years of being an orphan, I was kicked out because when I said that the people that lost their family to the Nine Tails wanted revenge on him, thought that the Nine Tails had been reincarnated into me, so every day they would always glare and call me demon or any other words that would relate to it, he said, which caused Nami to openly sob into Naruto's chest. Although on my birthday, aka the day of the Nine Tails attack, would always be mobs that would come and brutally beat me with any weapons they could find, from using sticks to jutsu and shuriken. This would happen every birthday, and sometimes it would happen when it wasn't even my birthday. Over the years, Kurama would try to corrupt my mind into using his power, but one day I met Kurama for the first time. I met Kurama, I demanded he give me power, but back then I was a little brat. He chuckled a bit while inside his head Kurama was nodding his head, agreeing with Naruto completely. Anyway, over the years I managed to befriend so much that I consider him a brother and all, but Bloody said with a smile, and if Kurama didn't have so much pride he would have burst into tears, but he did let a single teardrop go with a huge fox grin on his face. So that was how I met and became friends, brothers with Kurama, he said with a grin after Nami stopped sobbing and his story. She looked up at him. I guess I have a similar story to you with the old fishman pirate, she said, as she began telling her story to him about Bellamy and Arlong and how Luffy protected her. At the end of her story, Naruto kissed Nami's forehead as she was crying into his chest again, but blushed when he kissed her head. However, before they could continue their talk about 15 fishmen wearing something like a royal guard uniform, Naruto, the Foxfire Sage, you are under arrest and we would like you to come to the royal palace with us, the captain said with authority in his voice, but was shaking like a leaf as Naruto put Nami down and began cracking his knuckles. Finally, I can fight again after 2 years, Naruto said as he walked towards them with his hands behind his head and a bored expression on his face. As Naruto walked towards the royal fishman guards, Naruto slowly spread his arms out wide, spread his fingers, and muttered a few words under his breath before all hell broke loose. You no flame dance. Before the guards even knew what was happening, several vine-like blue flames shot out from behind Naruto, causing them to make contact with anything within its range, hitting the guards in the process, knocking them all unconscious. Naruto could not help but smirk at the chaos that he had caused. Hey, having a demon inside you all of your life can change you. Oh, I love a good warm-up, Naruto said as he slowly looked over to Nami, who couldn't help but giggle and shake her head. And Naruto's bluntness, let's go find the others, Naruto, and find out what is going on since you knocked out all of the guards. And now I don't have anyone to interrogate, she says with a gleam in her eye, which sends a small shiver down Naruto's spine. Damn, you remind me a bit of Anko, he says with a chuckle. However, before they could begin their search, they noticed a large royal carriage being pulled by dolphins. The door to said carriage slowly opened and came out 3 fishmen. Damn, it looks like we didn't make it in time to stop out guards. Naruto looked up at the one in the middle to look at one of the mermen. He had shoulder-length blue hair that also went down to his lower back. He was also wearing a short purple waistband that covered his lower body with a light blue sash wrapped around it and also went under his arms and around his head. He was also carrying what looked to be a golden trident. The 2 mermen next to him wore similar clothing, only in different color, and they were wearing hats. One of them was slightly pudgy while the other one was skinny. The muscular one slowly swam forward towards Naruto. I am sorry for the royal guards. They believe that the Straw Hats have taken over the royal palace and have kidnapped my sister. My name is Fukabashi, and these 2 behind me are my brothers Ryabashi and Manbashi, he says with a smile. Naruto and Nami sweat dropped slightly at their names. What's with the Bashi at the ends of their names, they thought while smirking back at them. It's fine, I haven't found a good match against me anyways, so I needed a warm-up, he says with a chuckle, while Fukabashi's eye twitched slightly due to his guards being used as practice dummies for the pirate in front of him. After Naruto was done with his rant about the royal guards, Nami decided to ask, what made you think we would want to kidnap the princess? She says, already guessing who was behind it since they were with them not too long ago. Well, that was why we came to stop the guards, but we were too late, he says with a chuckle as Naruto rubs his chin slightly. Well, I can clank, Naruto answers the snail. Forgot the name. Hey Naruto, can you hear me? The voice of Sanji was heard on the end of the line. "Yeah, we hear you, so where are you guys? Yeah, we are currently at a graveyard called Sea Forest Inn with Jinbei as well, so feel free to come here. Oh, and by the way, is Nami Swan with you?" He says with hearts in his eyes at the end of his sentence. Well, Naruto couldn't help but wince and rub his sensitive ears. "Oh my ears," Naruto Kurama say while rubbing said ears while crying, "and I'm tears. Shut up, you shitty cook, my ears are bleeding here," he says while gets a slight eye twitch shut. "Bit food topping, and tell me if Nami Swan NNN is with you," he says a little bit quieter this time. "Yes, I'm here, Saji-kun, I'm with Naruto-kun at the moment," she says with a smile, while Naruto twitches slightly at hearing Sanji scream down the snail, asking things like if she was okay. "And as the whiskered is looking after you," Naruto ignores the jab and raises an eyebrow at the kun honorific, then smirks slightly as he says, "Okay Sanji, we will be there soon," Naruto says Circa-chan as he puts the snail away for later while smirking at Nami. "So Nami-chan, it's Naruto-kun now," he says teasingly while wrapping his arm around her waist, causing her to blush slightly but gets a gleam in her eye and presses her breasts into the side of his chest. She answers sultry. Sea Forest with Frankie, Sanji, Robin, and Jinbei. Sanji can be seen grumbling to himself about shitty fox brat and stealing Nami Swan away, while Robin and Jim are currently having a conversation about the Sun Pirates and their past, as well as other things that has happened on Fishman Island in the past, such as the queen being assassinated by a human, but they both had their suspicions on who it was, Jinbei being one of them, although he wasn't able to find any proof, and Robin due to her high bring. Well, Robin Jinbei sighed slightly before slowly standing up, and he slowly looked over at both of the Straw Hats with slightly narrowed eyes. "I'm sorry about this, but I will not let Luffy take on Hodeji." As he said that, a large shark landed in the graveyard with Luffy sitting on top of its head. "Shisha, looks like I found the sunny," he said, with his usual grin plastered on his face. He looked over and noticed Sanji and Robin with Jinbei. "Hey guys," he said with a wave before he suddenly fell off the shark's head due to it looking like it was having a panic attack, as it looked like it was trying to keep its mouth open until blah he wasn't able to hold on any longer and vomited out a princess. She screamed as she was suddenly out in the open. Jim was jaw dropped when he saw the princess get splat out of her pet shark, while Sanji currently had his back to them as he was busy attending to Robin much to her displeasure. "Not that she'd show it, PP princess, what in Neptune's name are you doing here?" he shouted at her only to be shocked again as Luffy made himself known. "She said she wanted to see what the sea forest looked like since it's always been a dream of hers," he says with his hands behind his head, while Jim was debating on whether or not he should kill Luffy. Jim sighed and looked over at Luffy. "Luffy-kun, don't you know she's been having attempts on her life for years now? There is a reason she has not been allowed out of her tower," he says to him while he began scolding the princess. "Of course I know, which it's why I'm going to protect Coward-chan until she is back in the tower," he says with complete seriousness, while Jim could only sigh and look over at Luffy. "On to another matter, I don't want you to fight Horty Jones, but Naruto and the three princes." Naruto could only sigh as he rested his head back against a chair. "I wish Nami was here," he says crying, and I'm tears when he remembered that she wanted to meet up with the other Straw Hats at the Sea Forest. She also wanted to meet Jim. Naruto could only sigh as he sat in the carriage with the three princes on his way to the castle. As he looked out the window, he noticed that there was smoke coming from the castle. "Hey Fukabashi, does the castle usually have smoke coming out of it?" he asked with narrowed eyes. "Something's not right here," then looked out of the other window and noticed that there was in fact smoke coming from the castle, which caused him to gasp. "Something bad is happening at the castle, step on it," he roared to the driver as the driver nodded before whipping the carriage, causing it to move faster. "Here, throws over to him, which looks like some sort of button. Press the button and it should give you a temporary bubble which should help you move around without having to deal with your weakness," he says as Naruto gives him a nod of gratitude before he prepares himself for the enviable battle ahead. Naruto stepped out of the carriage now encased within a bubble with his legs outside the bubble and began to skywalk towards the palace, leaving the carriage in the distance while he had a huge smirk on his face. "Skywalk, gotta thank Shanks for teaching me some of the CP9 moves," he says to himself as he is now left standing in front of the doors to the palace, which look like they have seen better days, as he slowly walks inside the palace, which doesn't seem to have water inside some of the areas, as he gets rid of the bubble and walks inside, and he sweat drops at what he sees. "What are you doing?" he asks with a twitching eyebrow at the three culprits, causing two of said culprits to jump and hide. Zoro was not having a good day. First, when he was taken to the palace, he was planning on having a nap, then the guards suddenly pointed their weapons at him and said he was going to be arrested for the supposed kidnapping of their princess. Since Luffy was nowhere to be seen, they tried to put two and two together and immediately thought it was the Straw Hats who had kidnapped her, so he, Usopp, and Brook had no choice but to knock the king, his advisors, and the guards out before tying them up so that they wouldn't try to attack them again. And as they were finished tying them up, he heard his two crewmates squeak and hide behind him, which caused him to raise an eyebrow until he heard "What are you doing?" He then turned around and saw Naruto standing there with his hands crossed above his chest and was showing an amused look at them. Zoro sighed as he began to tell him what was happening. "Well, Luffy is currently at the sea forest, so that is probably where the princess is," he said, while rubbing his chin. "Ha, so you did kidnap my baby." He shouted at Naruto, which caused Naruto to narrow his eyes at the king. "No, she told Luffy she always wanted to go there and see what it was like, but since you always kept her locked in a tower like some sort of Rapunzel," he said with a glare causing them to gulp slightly. Naruto sighed as he turned round and walked outside the castle and got inside another bubble before he started heading towards the sea forest, almost letting out a whine as he did so. "I have been walking and swimming around all day. I want to stay in one area," he says, crying and I'm tears until he started meditating while his bubble got pulled into the water rift that had a label for sea forest above it and decided to enjoy the ride. "Hey Kurama, you there?" Naruto said telepathically. "Yeah, I'm here." Kurama said through purrs, which almost caused Naruto to bust a lung, trying not to laugh. "Did you just purr?" he said while holding in his laughter, which caused him to hear a growl in the back of his mind. "It's not my fault, I am being petted by the sexy archaeologist here," he said with a growl purr. As Naruto managed to get his laughter under control. Anyways, Kurama tells Robin-chan that I'm on my way to the sea forest and that Luffy has pissed off the royal family, he says with a chuckle at how he knows that Luffy probably won't care in the slightest. Sea forest with the others. After Jinbei had finished telling Nami about the Sun Pirate's backstory, Nami said she held no grudge to him, yet there were still some fishmen out there that she could not stand. For Jinbei then turned his attention on Luffy, but before he could make himself known to the Straw Hat Captain, Robin cut. Then Robin said to Luffy to catch his attention from playing with a shark, which it did as he turned around to look at Robin. "What is it, Robin?" he asked with a smile. "Naruto-kun is on his way here to see us and that the royal palace are quite angry at you for kidnapping the princess," she said with a small giggle. While Nami could only shake her head in annoyance at Luffy laughed slightly at this, but before he could reply to Robin, Jinbei beat him to it. "Naruto? As in Foxfire Naruto? The one who has a 410 million bounty?" he asked with comical eyes and jaw dropped as Nami just rubbed her head while Luffy laughed. "Yup, that Naruto. Guess his bounty went up from when I seen him at Marine Fort," he said as looked up from his momentary shock and took on a serious face. "Luffy-kun, I do not want you to fight Horty Jones," he said as Luffy looked at him blankly for a second before standing up to him. "What? Why not? I was planning on kicking his ass anyways," he says as he narrows his eyes at Jinbei as he sees him get in his fish kata stance while glaring at Luffy. "Because I know you can't beat him and that you should not interfere with Fish Island's problems," he says as they were about to start fighting until they both hear a loud yawn from above them and look to see Naruto laying down on the Sunny's grass deck in a potion that would make people think of Zoro except Sanji, who was still stone-field. "What I miss?" he asked as he sat up from his small nap before smiling down at Robin and Nami, which caused them both to blush slightly. Naruto nodded his head slightly as he listened to Luffy and Jinbei go at it with each other like a couple of children. "I understand, but Jinbei, you know that Luffy can beat him and you also know that he would be nothing but a warm-up for me unless he decides to eat every single one of those pills you told me out. Then he might actually cause me to get serious," he says with a fox-like grin that made even Kurama proud, he says as Jinbei could only growl in annoyance. Well, Jinbei was cut off from his rant from the transponder snail. "Purra purra purra purra," it goes of as Naruto picks up the snail. "Hello," he says with a smirk as he suddenly gets serious. "Naruto, this is Zoro. After you left the palace, a fisherman called Horty Jones came and took the king, saying stuff about wanting to take over Fishman Island and that he was going to kill King Neptune. We need your help ASAP." He heard through the transponder snail as Naruto nodded. "Okay, so where are you?" he asked as Zoro looked around. However, before he could answer, Yusuf took the snail from his hand. "Don't go asking Zoro those kind of questions," he shouted with a tick mark on his head as Zoro's eyebrow started twitching at the jab to his sense of direction. "We are currently in a town that has been turned into a wasteland thanks to the Horty Jones and his crew, who have now named themselves the new Fishman Pirates," he says as Naruto hears Nami gasp in fear. "The Sunny should be facing the direction of the town, so hurry please, they are surrounding us and there is a lot of them," he shouted while shaking in fear as Naruto nods his head. "Okay, we will be there in a few," he said as he smirks. "Frankie," he shouts as he hears a small eye from below deck. "Prepare the coup to burst," he shouts as he hears another sound of "I." From below deck. "Everyone get on the ship, that includes you, princess," he shouted as everyone got on the ship as Frankie down in the engineering began to pull levers and push buttons before he came to the big lever and Sweet's coup to burst. As he shoots this, the large thruster at the back of the ship begins to power up before blasting off into the distance. Unknown town that is now a battlefield. Zoro is currently in his three-sword style stance fighting a group on no-name pirates. "Antoryu. Great Dragon Twister." he shouts as he spins his blades while being surrounded, causing all the pirates that were around him to be lifted into the air, throwing them in all directions with deep sword cuts all over their body. As Zoro lands, not looking the least bit tired, only to find more pirates than before around him than there was before. What? How annoying, he says before he sets down into a crouching position with his arms crossed and his swords being held just above his hip and his other sword still in his mouth. Santoryu. Extreme tiger cut. He shouts as he disappears from their view, only to appear behind the pirates, causing blood to spurt out of all the pirates' mouth and fall to the ground either unconscious or most likely dead. Now that he was not surrounded as much as before, only to see a lot more running towards him with their weapons held high and smug grins on their faces. That 320 million bounty is mine. Most of them shouted as Zoro slowly started to get annoyed. Get out of my way, trash, he growled as he threw his sword diagonally, creating a large blue slash that headed towards them, causing some of them to hold up their swords ready to block the strike and most of them to try and run for cover. Those that tried to block the strike had their blades sliced in half and were now dead on the floor. Some of them were even decapitated from the strike. As he was about to take another strike, he heard something coming towards him and, as he turned around, his normally calm and annoyed look in his eye turned to one of shock and fear as he looked towards what was coming towards him. The thousand sunny well shit. Boom. That was a nice ride, Naruto said as he stepped off the ship, unknowingly standing on a body. He says as he looks down and notices the dazed and bruised body of Zoro on the ground. Damn, I guess the pirates got to him, he says as he sheds a single tear for the loss of his crewmate. If I had known you were that weak, I wouldn't have became crewmates with you, he says as if Naruto could see Zoro's face, he would see a lot of tick marks, his eyebrow twitching and looking like he was about to pop a blood vessel. Bastard. Zoro yelled as he tried to punch Naruto as Naruto jumped back looking honestly surprised. What the hell, Zoro? He shouted as Zoro pointed his sword at Naruto. It wasn't the pirates that got me like this, it was the Sunny. He shouted comically while completely forgetting about the approaching army, who were currently shocked at the fact that a ship had just appeared and crushed some of their crew in the process. Naruto then did something he has not done in a while. He rolled up his sleeve where a tattoo seal was on his wrist as he bit his thumb and swiped it across his wrist, and smoke covered him. And what showed actually scared a lot of the main crew. Naruto stood there with what looked like a large cape that covered his body with a large palm that was now bigger since the last time they seen it, and picture him with Whitebeard's cape, but it is black with blue flames on the bottom, and a palm similar to Whitebeard's, though it has a black blade, and the other end of the blade is made of sea stone. Naruto slowly started walking towards the enemy with a large grin on his face as he looked over to the charging pirate army, as his eyes then changed into something that shocked even Kurama the Sharingan. He says, quite shocked by that little bit of information that Naruto had an eternal Sharingan. Then Naruto said something that shocked him even more. Yo no Susanoo, Naruto says as flames burst up from all around him, surrounding him in what looked to be a humanoid fox with 10 tails, looking down at the pirates with bright blue eyes. As the flames surrounded Naruto looked like a large ribsage, then the fox's claw came out and a brighter flame that the fox itself appeared, which looked like a sword of pure blue fire as he grinned at the shaking army. It's showtime, bitches. Thanks for watching my video, see you next time, till then sayonara.